I left the US a couple years ago in 2022, September, and you were pregnant. And so I wasn't in upstate New York in that community where we were from. Um, your daughter was born in November, right?
Right.
What was the day?
November 12th, 2024.
November 12th. Okay. Oh, and right. So her name is Nova Elizabeth
Yeah.
Herrera-Molina. So wonderful. Not yet. I mean, still pretty young. How old is she in like month time?
A little over 3 months old.
Oh my goodness. Like
Yeah.
an eternity ago, but also 3 months.
Yes. Yep.
How is that possible?
Oh, time flies.
So, right. Today, kind of the intent of this talk is about all things equity related to related to business and healing arts and the spa industry and wellness and aesthetics. Um, beyond providing a comfortable environment for people to feel seen and cared for, the equity, the questionable, if maternity were equitable, I think that's kind of part of what this podcast touches is that I called you in July, right? This was before Nova was born. You were carrying the baby. Um, I was here in Spain. You were doing the spa owner thing. You were training another practitioner at the time and mentoring another practitioner to come into your business. You were looking at rebranding and rebuilding things slowly over time. And so that's how we connected about me potentially being a copywriter for the new website that has yet to come. But we were talking about these things, but I called you because my mind was blown away. Being like kind of like country bumpkin Shayna here in Spain, where like I had lived many, many years in upstate New York. I can't say I'm from there, but was there for many, many winters. And so that was like when people ask me where I'm from, I generally have to say I grew up in Texas, but I lived many years in Ithaca, New York. And in terms of just my professional life and having community and collaborations and connections, that was all rooted in that area. And so my knowledge base is still based in kind of the US mentality of how we did things in Ithaca, which is a very special place. Upstate New York is very special in that people can connect one-on-one in person, bump into each other on one street corner, have a massage or a facial scheduled before the end of that conversation. And then by the end of the day, they're on your table. You're giving them a massage, right? Like you're selling the massages as you see people. I mean, I remember I still envy connecting and having all that kind of collaboration. But my point is, things were different over there. Rates of services were different. And when I found out, there was another at the time in July, another esthetician at the spa I go to here for waxing. She was pregnant at the same time. Um, Her name is Patricia. She was due in August. Yes, and you were due in November. And I found out that when I asked the spa owner, Belin, how Patricia was doing, she said that she was already out of work. I mean, it was July, the baby was due in August, but that there was paid maternity time and that when the baby uh, would be due, or when she was due back for work, it was going to be at least February because she was going to take kind of the max time that people are given here by federal mandate. So it turns out, and I had no idea about this, and so my mind was blown. And I think maybe this is just some of my ignorance from not knowing how the EU works and how other European nations are. And England, even though they're not the EU anymore, they have this kind of legislation as well of here in Spain anyway, the standard is 16 weeks paid maternity leave. Um, and that's preceded by, depending on the company of work, 6 to 8 weeks before that, before the birth, also paid. Um, the other part that, in comparison, I was talking with a friend of mine who did HR in England, but 10 years ago, but was telling me how it was 10 years ago in England. It was 6 months off for maternity leave. Um, and there was a paternity leave as well of 2 weeks, which there was a feeling of kind of an injustice there because even if the, um, I want to practice my gender equity terms because I do honor that not all people are in the binary of gender. And so I am refraining from, you know, I'm using as much inclusive language as my limited capacity is at this moment in my practice of equity speech. Um, but yes, there was the sense of imbalance. Okay, I will say the words between men and women in the sense of even if women were paid to be with the baby at home, then if the men were back at work, that could kind of push them out of the workforce in a way. So that I don't think has actually changed that much from my understanding. I haven't looked. Somebody else can tell me. Um, but women, I think, had the guarantee to come back to work within a certain amount of time and come back to the same job. Or if they came back within the same year, they were definitely guaranteed something. But here in Spain, there's a 16-week paternity leave also after birth. And so, just to recap, you were pregnant, due in November, and in July, you were telling your community, I was seeing you on Instagram and talking wonderfully beautiful as you are, as you always are, about how you wanted to book November and December solid because you were planning to take 2 months off unpaid maternity leave to come back and fresh to work in January.
Mhm.
And that's all unpaid because
Right.
in the US, there's no law, a federal law at all for equal maternity leave among people of any kind, right? So that doesn't exist for pregnant people. Um, Now there are definitely companies that might honor different arrangements, right? But in terms of a federal law, that does not exist. So I was shocked. I was shocked to find that this is the case in Spain. And from what people have told me, there's even the opportunity now with some decree in the Congress that could become law where it will become not just 16 weeks, but it'll be 20 weeks.
Mhm.
And that's being up for discussion. And also, from what I hear, this is like kind of even nothing compared to the other nations in the European Union that have other social provisions. So, whatever, my ignorance, what I couldn't help but feel was, oh my God, how would Ariel's life be different if she had 5 months off, guaranteed to have a baby, and that all be compensated? And of course, I don't want to like sit here and be like, well, how do you feel? Um, but that's what I talked to you about that day in July. When you got my WhatsApp message, how did you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely remember that message, and I was a little bit more informed because, like, again, I love social studies. I do study, other countries, and I already knew, unfortunately, like America's at the bottom of the barrel in terms of maternity leave and what is provided federally. Um, but if I'm being completely honest with you, it hurts. Like it hurts. It's very it was I was very emotional, and yeah, I was very hormonal at the time, but yeah, it hurts. It hurts to work your ass off and do everything you possibly can do to make a living, to heal other people, help other people, and then not be sure like how you're going to survive and keep your business afloat. Um so that was really, really, it was a rough time for me for sure. One thing that I did find out is that we do have, I'm so sorry, the train decided to go
Oh,
by.
that's the train. No
But we
worries.
do have the opportunity for paid family leave in New York State. But I was not aware of it at the time. So it wasn't until I got pregnant and started to learn about this a little more that what I have learned is that you have to sign up for paid family leave. I believe it's within the first 26 weeks of opening your business. So keep in mind, when you're first opening your business as a small business owner, as someone who does not have money or access to lawyers, so let's bring in the equity thing again, right?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
generational wealth. My parents and my family are not helping me to pay for lawyers to make sure that I'm filing everything correctly. You know, as a small business owner, there are so many different pieces to the puzzle. I had no idea there was even such thing as paid family leave. If you do not apply for paid family leave within 26 weeks, you can still apply. I can still apply, but I won't have access to any of the funds for 2 years. And as you know, even if I did get access to the funds, it's what, like 6 weeks, I think, is standard in the United States. And that's after you have the baby. Um, I do, ironically enough, I do pay for like workers' compensation, disability, paid family leave, all of that for my employee. So if my employer were to go to get pregnant today, she would have coverage, but I was not paying for myself. I had no idea. Again, even if I were paying for myself and I did have access to a little bit of maternity, I do not believe that 6 weeks is anywhere near enough for a mother to not only have her baby, but heal, because it does not happen within 6 weeks. Um, in terms of paternity leave, I will say, now that I have this experience, I think it's important for both mom and dad to be with the baby and have time with the baby for a certain period of time. And I think some of the issues that we have in this country, a lot of postpartum depression and things like that going on, I think that they could be very easily relieved if we actually had a support system that cared about families and cared about mothers. Um, I know, of course, when I used to research maternity leave in other countries, it was a long time ago. I was like in high school, again, like before going to college for social studies and whatnot. And I mean, there are countries who will provide you with a paid nanny. There are countries that will provide you with people who will come in and do your laundry. Um, I think having, with Spain, what'd you say? It was like 6 weeks that they get off before they have the baby.
Yeah, something like that, depending on the business. 6 to 8
I
weeks.
so I had Nova on November 12th, but I did take off from November 1st on. So I technically had 11 days before I had my daughter. Well,
Mhm.
maybe like 10 before I was induced and actually the process of having her began. And it was very, very hard. It was very hard. I was in so much pain. I was so mentally not okay. And I had to thug it out and do everything I could. And I was lucky in the sense that at least I do have a business and I am the boss who says whether or not you can leave or not come back to work or whatever. There are a lot of people around here. I saw constantly in my mom's groups a lot of people who are like, I cannot work. I'm in so much pain, but I can't take time off because my maternity leave doesn't start until I have the baby. Um, then when it comes to the actual, what we call the fourth trimester, like after you have the baby, that's a whole nother, it's a whole nother thing. The first month after you have a baby, you are not yourself. You're not yourself. The exhaustion is a level that I could never even possibly explain. You can never understand it until you've been there. And I'm a very, like, me, I'm a hard worker. I work, there's been times where I've worked 70 hours a week and that was normal for me. But this is exhaustion is on a whole nother level. And keeping in mind that moms, you don't just like get pregnant and have a baby. It is like a year long process that your body is going through both mentally and physically and emotionally. Um, so I was just thinking about that the other day. Like I decided to push back from January because I was originally going to go back in January, and I said absolutely not. Like I am not ready. I am not healed. There is no way that I have a connection with my baby to feel comfortable leaving her. And so I did end up pushing back until February. But even when I started in February, it's been rough, and I've done everything I can to be prepared, but the way that I've thought about it is like I got pregnant in February of last year. This has been a year that my body and my mind has been more taxed than it has ever been. And to expect me to be tip top and 100% ready to go right back into work and make a living, and it's just, I I commend a lot of mothers. I think that it's a whole nother topic that I'm going to be very, very vocal about. That's for sure.
Oh, well, thank goodness you're being vocal. I mean, I really appreciate you being here and sharing with this audience. I don't know how many people this is going to reach, but hopefully this will reach the people it needs to. And, I know that as two human beings, right, like we would love to reimagine policies in the US. But we are, I mean, at the moment, the struggle is to, my God, it's a difference, right? Like people, I don't think are at that level of just considering what the possibilities can be. Um, when there's what you're talking about of the that discomfort happening in the nation on the ground and kind of the I don't know, as one friend had written about it, like it's all just gaslight, gaslight, girl boss, and act like nothing's happening. Um,
Literally, it's very hard. Like, you know me as a person, I'm a very vocal, outspoken person. I'm literally living in a situation where I cannot be my authentic self. Because if I am my authentic self right now, the truth is I'm not going to work and I'm not taking care of anybody. I'm out in the streets marching and fighting and doing what I can to make sure that our Constitution isn't being trampled over right now. But because I have a daughter now, because I have a baby now, I have to be really, really smart with the decisions that I make and even the things that I say, which I'm being very loose about now because I can't, I think about history because I love history. And all I can think about is the people who actually spoke up and did something. Those were the names that you remember. Those are the people that you study and talk about. And in their time, was it comfortable for them? No. Was it popular? No. But they were the people who made changes, serious changes. But no, I feel like I'm not living in my authenticity. How am I going to tell people to care for themselves when I feel like me as a person is being targeted and just broken down to the core?
mm,
Um, and I think that's what they want to do. And when you connect all of this together, America, as lovely as we want to believe we are as a country, we are literally living in a capitalistic society. We need to work. They want us to work. That is why mothers go back, after not even healing. Their body's literally not physically healing. I mean, cuts still open in their lower half of their body, and they're still going and standing on their feet and going to work because we need people to work so that the system continues and we make money for the top 1%. Um, that's how we are as a society. I have always been the kind of person who's always thought differently. I was always the black sheep, and a lot of the radical opinions and ideas that I've had throughout my life. It's almost like 10 years later, then they become popular, and then people wake up and realize, oh my God, I get what she was saying now. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It is very hard. It is really uncomfortable to be in a situation where part of me is like, oh my God, I've got married, I have a baby, my family is beautiful, I have this opportunity to expand my business and do all of these wonderful things. But the other half of me is waiting for it to all crumble and crash and burn. And that is a whole emotional burden that I couldn't possibly explain to anybody. It's very confusing and uncomfortable right now. It feels
Yeah.
like the world is crashing down around us. It feels like we have no control. It feels like even though we live in a place that is supposed to have checks and balances, and we're supposed to have multiple departments of government that help us all feel included, it feels as if that's not a thing. It feels as if we are in a dictatorship. And for me, it's really uncomfortable and awkward because, and I'm not trying to you can cut all of this out if you, but it is really, I'm trying to talk to my immigrant husband, right? I'm trying to talk to him about the situation that we're personally in and trying to explain to him that this is not just our personal uncomfortable situation that we're in. This is like an uncomfortable situation I have with my own country right now. I'm not happy with my country. To think about someone finding it okay to call themselves a king when you're talking about a country that was developed, not developed, stolen, where people were raped and murdered and, um, you know, bioterrorism was spread throughout the country um, for the purpose of not having a king. On top of that, my ancestors being brought here, having to build this country for the purpose of the people coming here not wanting a king, to be thinking it's funny to be throwing around words like king. Like, it's not funny at all. It's disgusting. And if we think about the history of this country, yeah, Americans are very, it's uncomfortable. We've
Hmm.
literally killed and murdered and raped millions of people to have this country, to have democracy, and to be in a situation in my lifetime where I feel like it could be torn away. It's very uncomfortable. It's very hard to explain, you
Oh,
know?
well, I know I feel all of it. Like I know we're at a distance, but and I know there's a gap in hours and a time zone difference and a ocean in between us. But I like behind my eyes there are tears. You know, like I feel all of this and I think you're definitely not alone. When I check in with my friends back home, even other states from the west to the south to the northeast, like definitely people have a lot of discomfort and pain. And I mean, I'm grateful that again, you were giving some voice to that. Like there could be a chorus behind me resounding what you're saying right now. But I also, yeah, um, you're not alone. I also, it does bring me to these to hear you talk about the term king not being funny being thrown around and
Not comical. There's
ah
nothing about it that's funny, especially when you're literally seeing things that are unconstitutional and that go against the law happening from the administration. And all that our, members of Congress are telling us is, oh, it's going to go through the courts. It's going to go through the court. Why is it going through the courts? Why is my tax money paying for you to do unconstitutional things that are going through the courts? You
I
know,
I
why are
hear
you
it.
targeting immigrants who pay taxes, who pay our social security that they will never receive? you know for me, it's a hard time right now. I am a woman of color. I am married to an immigrant and I just had a baby girl. So to be having every part of my being shitted on right now, that's
Hmm.
the easiest way that I can say it, is uncomfortable and disgusting. But the main thing that I'm very excited about, tying this back into maternity and being a mother, when I had Nova on November 12th, the week after the election, um, I knew during that time I was either going to be incredibly sad or so fucking happy to be able to show my little girl that someone that looks like her for the first time in my lifetime could be in this role, right? I knew it was going to be one or the other. It was either going to be amazing or it was going to be tragic. In my situation, it was tragic. And I tell you how it affected everything. It affected my birth plan because it affected my mind. I literally was gearing up for birth. I was practicing. My mind control. And I felt like this is something I do all the time. Like, oh my God, the things that they teach mothers, breath work, controlling your mind. I do this all the time. But because this was such a just slap in the face type of situation, everything that I had planned for my birth did not happen. I chose to be induced because I wanted to get her out of my body. You know what I'm saying? Like, I needed her to just come because I was so worried about my mental health and harming her being inside me that it was like, I need to get her out.
Hmm.
Being induced and given Pitocin, it made my labor so much more painful immediately. Because when you're induced and when you're given Pitocin, which is the uh, you know man-made form of oxytocin, and it's just going in you so quickly, it brings your contractions on full force. So I was in the most excruciating pain I have been in my life for about 5 hours straight until I decided I have to get an epidural. And it was never my plan to get an epidural. But I was so mentally unwell at the time that I couldn't even get into my own headspace and take the own advice that I give everybody. So, and then to have, again, to have a daughter who is a person of color, who is a female, who is the daughter of an immigrant, um, it completely ruined my birthing plan. I was not mentally stable at the time at all. And I felt like bringing her into this world was just doing her a disservice. Um, at the same time, I felt like we need you, Nova. We absolutely need you right now. And I feel like you were born for a reason. I feel like you came here for a reason because, one, if you were not here, my ass would probably be in prison right now. Because there's no way, in me living in my authenticity, that I could sit here in my house and not do something about what is happening in this country that's going to affect everything, including my business, which was my first baby that I worked so hard to build. Um, Spending
Mhm.
thousands and thousands of dollars on immigration, trying to do things the right way while also trying to run a business, while also having a baby, while also not being paid for months, and then just having your whole life shitted on. It just, it's been a whirlwind of emotions. And my baby came at the right time. She knew that I needed her to be here so that I don't do something crazy. And I 110% believe that she's going to be a conduit of love and healing and all of the things. And I think she's going to change the world. And that's what I'm gearing her up to do. The best thing that I can do right now is use my voice because I can't go out there right now, and educate my child on how to be the best person that she can be and how to help everybody because everybody should have access to the same opportunities and everybody should be cared for. And not one person should be targeted as a group and fear mongered. This should not be happening, and it's uncomfortable to have a baby during this time, especially in our circumstance, especially the baby who she is, to think about the fact that my baby could potentially not be a fucking American citizen because of some of the things that they're trying to do. If I would have just had her a couple of months later, obviously that hasn't happened because thank God we do have checks and balances, and some of the judges still have, you know, they're really thinking for the greater good. But these are the real things that I've had to think about, as a business owner, as a mother, as a wife.
Gosh, it's like we're having a show about pregnancy, but it's the birth of your daughter really is the, gosh, I mean, for lack of better words, right? The fruit of something I don't have words for, right? Like what you said that you had the baby the week after election, like the intensity of this, right? And the significance of it and the offering of that in this time through your, again, lack of better words, sacrifice. I mean, not that it's a sacrifice that naturally this being is coming through you, but the fact that you needed to have your good mind and body and soul to be in time and space enough to bring in this light, right? Like through running a business and stopping what 10 days before the birth, right? Like working, which let's not even ask about how that went, but I can't imagine.
Yeah,
Um,
it was a lot. I had pregnancy carpal tunnel, which is very normal. So doing facials was very, very hard. My hands were in excruciating pain. My ankles still hurt. My ankles hurt. If I sit down for too long, my ankles and my feet hurt. It's just like part of the territory. But these are the things that we don't talk about a lot. I have so much more respect for mothers than I ever did, even though I was always empathetic to mothers, probably more than the next person. But there are so many things that we as American women and mothers do not talk about just to make sure that everyone is happy and everyone's alive and life is still going. So many things.
mm. Well, let's try to talk about the bright side that when I think about the wonderful cast and characters around you and your family and your birth, like you have a wonderful mother who is a wonderful grandmother, um, who's at your side, and your husband, although I've never met him, like has seemed from, the outside and just, I don't know. I think people can kind of tell a genuine sense of when you have shown um being, I think somebody, because like we're Facebook friends, right? Like somebody commented like, well, this has been the first person you've been passionate about vocally, so I think you are good for each other.
I
Like
saw that and oh, I'm surprised someone noticed that. Wow. Yeah, I'm very, very lucky in terms of community. I have a great few family members that are very supportive. I have the most supportive husband. I have friends who are very supportive. If it weren't for that support, if I were by myself, like a lot of people are, I would not be able to do this, plain and simple. um and getting back into like the paternity leave and things like that, we chose to pull Juan out of work a lot longer than we had anticipated because I needed his help. I don't think people realize how much like it really is like you are a unit, you are helping each other. There were times in that first month that I would have no, but I'm nodding out, I cannot stay awake, you know what I mean? And if I don't have that other partner to come help me, I mean, it's a whole, it's wild. But that's the other thing too, like with Juan, I mean, I married a foreigner, I married someone who's his ideals and his morals and everything are so different. If I didn't have such a supportive husband who was such a supportive father, I would be losing my mind right now. I would not be, I would have postpartum depression. That's where I'm saying, like, I think when it comes into postpartum depression and women being able to heal, this country does not allow that. And if you do not have a supportive partner and if you do not have community, it takes a village. They don't just say that. That is literally how raising a child is. Um, you would struggle mentally. Absolutely.
yeah. Um, I mean, I can't imagine. Uh, I think like in preparing for this podcast, one of the questions here is like, what advice would you give to other self-employed women planning for maternity leave? But I think you're talking to probably very good advice for just about anyone at any moment, but in times of lots of adversity, especially now, right? Having community in place. I had told my brother a very long time ago before I moved to Spain, like, oh, I think the US is a very barbaric place to live. And of course, he kind of disagreed with me. And he's like, well, Shayna, I think barbaric is a bit of a strong word. Um, since then, like Roe versus Wade has been overturned, but like there has been this kind of right, like a very conservative whiplash, if you will, or backlash on, I guess, some sort of agency over carrying bodies and and people having the kind of care that they need. But if you, yeah, I want, I guess, hear more about like the mothers groups that you've been in and in your postpartum 3 months, with the support you've had. How, like, knowing what you know now, having gone through birth, being on the other side, how are you planning on using your voice or your knowledge and information now to help support other women? Just because I've also found that in Spain, this federal mandate of the time off is guaranteed whether people are self-employed or not. They can be working for themselves, working for the government, working at a grocery store, and they all get the same paid time. So you know, wanting to hold on to the hope and hope for the US and not completely lose hope, um, because there's going to be keeping it together, there's going to be organization, there's going to be light amidst all of the whatever we want to call it, the situation. Like, how are you going to help in this way for other women facing pregnancy, whether they're in business or whether they're just going through it?
Well, I would say like for me, I've always been a connector. I always bring people together. I'm big on referrals. So I'm going to make sure that the women that I know who are getting pregnant or have had babies have access to resources that I had to learn and study and find myself. So for example, like if you are a small business owner in New York in particular, I mean, you have to check your state laws. Everything is different. But I would absolutely first check on your paid family leave, especially if you're just opening your business. That should be one of the first things that you do, because if you fall out of the time frame for when you can apply for that, you won't have benefits for years. So that's one of the things that I would do if you're particularly a business owner, tapping into what the government does offer, even though it's not a whole lot. You know what I mean? A little bit goes a long way. The other thing I would recommend is there are certain programs that, thankfully we do have some people who are passionate about making sure that they're here. So some of those, like in New York State, would be WIC, for example, which at the very least, they will help you to purchase formula, fruits and vegetables, milk, things like that. Um, and then the other things that have helped me personally are doulas. I have been in a program for like lower income families that, at least in this area, they haven't been super stringent because they're relatively new and relatively getting their name out there. But they did provide me with a doula who helped me before my pregnancy, helped me to create a birthing plan and at least have a little bit of an idea as to what to expect. And if it weren't for her, there were a lot of you know, there were a lot of areas that I would be very uneducated in, even with doing the research. They also provide me with a postpartum doula. So I do have a doula who comes in usually once or twice a week, who helps in any area that we need help. So sometimes she'll go grocery shopping, sometimes she'll watch the babies, like especially the first month. She would come in and watch the baby so I could take a shower. So I could just take a shower. So that is one thing that I have been telling everybody. Like, if you have the ability, try to get a doula. There are programs that can help you pay for a doula. Um, and that's one of the things that has helped me tremendously, for sure. The other thing is like connecting with your community, and I think the problem is until you've been in the situation, it's really hard to understand what your needs are going to be because you just don't know. So I remember when I was pregnant and I had so many women who were saying, if you need anything, let me know. If you need anything, let me know. Constantly I was hearing that, and I didn't really know what that meant, so I didn't know what to let them know I needed. But for example, I had one friend who was actually pregnant at the same time. She was due like the week before me, and she's actually a client, and she was like, I'm going to make a bunch of freezer meals and have them ready for me, and I'm going to have a lot left over. Would you like them? Sure. So I started out my first couple of weeks where there were freezer meals ready to go for me. So I would meal prep and I would tap into anything that anyone is willing to do to help you. When somebody says, if you need help, even if it's just to come to sit with the baby, take that help seriously. I do wish that the government, especially with how much taxes we pay, I'm pretty sure I pay over 50% as a sole proprietor of my income goes to the government. I would hope that they would have more programs for us, but we have to take care of each other. And so I would try to tap into your community. There are mothers out there who are more than willing to help because they've been in this situation. And many of them were alone during that situation. And they want to make sure that you're not also alone. So it's not easy to prepare for, but I would say, like, if you can, having as much prepped as possible, making sure that you have meals that are quick and easy, making sure that you have someone who can come and when you're nodding out and passing out because you haven't slept at all, you know, um, making sure that there's people who come in and help you with that kind of thing. Um,
Mhm.
that's, I think, the best thing that you can do, because and any mom will say this, you can prepare as much as possible and it's never going to go anywhere the way that you expect that it's going to go.
Mm.
I would also say for moms who don't have a lot of resources, really make sure that you are only getting the bare minimum, the basics. The baby's going to be sleeping in your room most of the time. Do you need a fancy nursery? No, you don't. You need diapers. You need bottles if you're going to formula feed. You need probably a bassinet or something where the baby can be with you. And that is it. Like, get the basics. That's the other thing about living in this country. I feel like you have to feel like you're keeping up with the Joneses. And you don't need to feel like that. A lot of these beautiful nurseries and things that people put together are unnecessary for the first year of the baby's life. So I know a lot of moms feel pressure like, oh my God, I'm about to have the baby and the nursery room isn't even done yet. I felt like that. Multiple mothers I know feel like that. And it's, not even being so.
Well, but you did post what your nursery looks like, and it's
Yes.
very beautiful, and one did a great job.
Yeah, so for us, it was more of like, this is fun. It was like a fun activity that we did together. And because we, I don't know, I'm very excited to have my first baby. She's a miracle baby. I have been, prepping to be a mom for a long time. As you know, I had a miscarriage the year before, I got pregnant with her. So I wanted to make sure just for ourselves that we did something really nice for her. Juan is an artist, so it was fun, like actually putting it all together. And then we ended up using, we didn't break the bank because we reused a lot of the same things. So like my baby shower, which my mom and my friends, again, community threw together for me,
Yeah.
we had like hot air balloon decorations that were, I just stole them and stuck them in her room.
Aw. Aw.
So
Yeah. Well, you did get, yeah, I'm grateful that you got some good help, a baby shower put together, that there was support coming. I mean, it would seem like it would make sense and be straightforward that things come together for a birth, right? As the village, right? And yet I do sometimes feel like there is this kind of the isolationist culture of like, don't ask anyone for help, just everyone to their own. And
we are. In my personal opinion, I feel like it is completely unnatural. I think throughout human history, like humans are community. Like you, I think that the interesting thing about the United States is we're always trying to be like one person. We're just trying to do every single thing when really it should be multiple hands in the pot helping each other. We're so backwards here with that. We all need to own our own houses. We all need to own our own cars. We all need to, you know what I mean? Like our priorities are not really, they set us up for disaster and they set us up for feeling bad when we can't control it all. And they do make us feel like for the longest time it has been taboo to talk about things that are uncomfortable. Um, and all I can think about is like, I've only had one baby. I cannot imagine all of these women who have done this with multiple kids and never had felt like they could have a voice or talk about it.
mm, gosh, you bring up a good point. I hadn't really thought about that. I mean, my grandmother, one of them, sure as heck had 10 children, but all I remember hearing from her was almost impeccable English with an accent. And like, I'm like, how did you do this?
Mm-hmm.
Not really any complaints that I'm aware of. But yeah, my grandmother, this, one of the two, the one that had the 10 kids. Oh, she was just fabulous. I mean, we won't get into tropical gardening right now, but I think about, I mean, all my grandparents, but those that have bared children and come through for our sakes. Your grandmother also has been named here in our lovely chat. I feel like we're probably getting around the time. I don't want to, I don't want to say, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but let's, I guess, look to the future and tell me for the spot, for you personally, for your family, what are you seeing as you go through after, it's been 3 months post-birth. Um, there's time ahead. What are you seeing?
Um, it's again, it's a really weird place to be in right now because it's hard to see a future when so many things are being taken away from the original future that you had planned for yourself.
Mm,
What I'm doing right now is making sure that I remember to tap into the things that make me happy. So, yes, it is hard going back to work, but I'm passionate about my job. I'm passionate about helping other people. And again, because a lot of us are feeling so uneasy right now, it is very healing to me to be healing other people and to be being in that space. So, I'm doing the best that I can. Honestly, I've been working as much as I can. I've been picking up a lot of shifts. I feel like it's my duty to take care of other people who are also struggling mentally during this time. It is fulfilling to me. The thoughts about expanding and moving into the other place is what's filling my mind with positivity and creativity and excitement. And I'm just doing the best that I can until it all comes crashing down. I have to continue to do the best that I can, and to continue to have goals and to continue to look forward. And that's why I'm going through with the new space. And that's all I can do. I have no vision or idea of what the future has in store, because as much as I'm a planner and want to, with everything going on right now, there's nothing I'm able to plan other than what I can currently control in this moment. And what I can currently control in this moment is what I have already created and just expanding on that. So right now I'm throwing myself into my work like I like to do when I am going through it. And in that, I feel like out comes love and beauty, because I'm able to help other people on a whole nother level. Um, During times like this, I do feel like these things happen for a reason, as cliche as that sounds. And maybe I was a little complacent and just kind of like going with the flow and just being in my little robotic like day-to-day life. And now I'm using my brain again and thinking a lot and thinking about what I want my future to look like, what I want Nova's future to look like, what I want my business to look like, how I want my business to impact the community and help other people. And I plan on using this time to support the communities that I feel like are being stripped and targeted specifically. So the only reason why I haven't created a public post yet about, not only do we accept BIPOC, people and LGBTQ community, but we encourage you to come here. We want you to come here. We respect you. We want you to feel comfortable in your own skin, in your authenticity, and we don't want you to change or look like anybody else to feel comfortable in a space. And so just to tie that up, it from the beginning of our conversation in terms of equity and the spa industry, I'm sure, as you know, the spa industry is not always inclusive and comfortable for people. It can actually be very uncomfortable. So my business, as much as I would love to have it be this big, crazy expansion, I also am well aware, because I discussed this with my clients last year, just kind of getting their ideas as to if we were to expand. I am also aware that being in that one room with us, that one-on-one service, and not having to look at the next person and worry about if fit into who's in the locker room. And it's complete different, and we're doing a service definitely by simply being open and taking care of our clients. So that's what I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on my business. I'm focusing on taking care of my clients and making sure that they're mentally as stable as they possibly can be, and giving them tools and techniques that I personally have to use. I'm focusing on being the best mother that I can possibly be. And I am definitely one of those mothers who's not, she's young, but I don't care. She's learning keywords right now. She knows what it is like to be called beautiful, to be called strong, to be called intelligent, to be called powerful, because I want her to grow up, look at herself in the mirror and say those things. And that's second nature to her. I don't want her to grow up and have to figure this all out later on in life and to beat herself up and not feel good about herself or feel like she has a problem. I want her to have confidence, and I want her to know that she's loved, and I want her to feel feel it in the fiber of her being, and to be able to spread that love. And again, I don't mean to be woo woo, but I've had this really powerful connection with my baby from the time she was in the womb with me. Even during Reiki sessions and things like that, where I would feel her become active, specifically during Reiki sessions, I would call on her as one of my guides, because I felt this huge connection and I felt like she was helping me to spread this love and energy. There were multiple clients who had visions of my baby and had strong, powerful feelings about Nova. One of my clients, she had kicked during a session and she felt it. And I mean, she was bawling because again, it's just this energetic connection that I have with my daughter. I feel like she's going to be a powerful person. So my main goal in life right now is to make sure that she's well taken care of and she knows her worth, despite what everybody else has to say about her. And I think she's going to change the world. I see it, not trying to get into a tangent, but I do see a astrologist consistently that I just started seeing last year. And I was never that much into astrology other than knowing a couple of basic things. But come to find out, she's given me the most powerful and accurate readings I have ever had in terms of any readings that I've ever done. She knew that I was going to have a baby girl. She told me I was going to have a baby girl literally the same month that I found out I was pregnant. Um, and she kind of confirmed without me even telling her any of this, like, Nova is going to be powerful. Whether she's going to be a lawyer or an activist, she's going to use her background as an immigrant, as a woman of mixed race and colors and languages, and she's going to do really good and be a connector, which she already is, because even people who I don't talk to or don't care, everyone loves my daughter for some reason. So she's already vibrating with love and positivity and bringing in people. And I see her doing that throughout her life. So right now, my goal is to not only take care of my business and my clients, but make sure that my daughter changes the world. Like, I believe she's going to do something amazing and powerful and notable.
Oh, 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 oh. I think we should end there. We should end with the supernova
Yeah.
expanding out into the universe.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, I know. I'm telling you, like, part of me is like, oh my gosh, am I going to publish this? Am I going to broadcast your beautiful words like this? Definitely multiple times I've just felt like the tears in the eyes, but behind the eyes, but just the emotion, the realness, right? Like humanity, life,
Right.
motherhood, pregnancy, working, and just kind of the, right, like the cosmic nature of all of it, and the human nature. Well, of course, we're going to be in touch. Um, there's still just, again, a whole depth of topics that can be delved more into. And as you continue to serve through the Reiki and the facials and the oasis that you provide for inclusive wellness, beauty, holistic skincare, otherworldly relaxation, I am sure I will want to call on you for future consults, updates. And thank you so much for sharing your story so bravely, so passionately, so unabashedly, and profoundly. Um, is there anything else you want to mention, or how these audiences can find you and check in with you and see how things are going so that they can further help the causes?
Yeah, so if you are interested in my work, basically at Ariel Pops Pimples. It's Ariel Pops Pimples, and that's on Instagram, Facebook, across the board. You can Google it and I will pop up.
You will be popping pimples when you pop up. Yeah, well, there will definitely, be notes with links, so that will be easy enough. And again, just thank you for being a great consultant here with us and guide and spirit to continue to shine light in the good work and the good healing love that you channel for others and for yourself and your family. Thank you so much, Ariel. Um, yeah.
Thank you, Shayna. It was my honor. I appreciate you. I love you. I love our friendship. And I really, thank you. Thank you for thinking of me. And
Oh,
I'm really happy to be a part of this new endeavor.
oh, well, yes, thank you.